Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to They Said What? My name is Mr. Rod, and this is the podcast where we take the loudest ideas floating around in sports, culture, business, entertainment, and everyday conversations, and we slow them way down just long enough to ask a basic question. Does that even make sense? This episode is all about our youth, and the question is complicated, but we always keep telling our students to do one thing, but we have to remember that graduation is not the finish line. It's the first real test. They keep telling our young people, just graduate. They tell them, get good grades. They say to them, go to college, get a job. Everything will be just fine. But here's the question nobody wants to deal with honestly. What in the world happens when the cap and gown come off, the graduation money is all spent, and the real world starts asking questions they were never trained to answer? Like, how do you manage money? How do you interview for a job? How in the world do you choose between college, the military, trade school, entrepreneurship, or simply taking a year to figure things out without falling completely behind? And maybe the bigger question is this. Are we preparing our graduating teens for the real world, or are we celebrating the fact that they survived school? Let's jump into this. Of course, graduation is beautiful. It deserves to be celebrated. These young people worked hard to get this far. Families sacrificed. Parents prayed, pushed, corrected, and, of course, encouraged. Teachers poured into them. Coaches mentored them. Grandparents showed up. And their communities cheered them on. But after the party, the pictures, the balloons, and the cake, life doesn't press the pause button. The real world doesn't ask, did you graduate? It asks, can you show up on time? Can you manage money? Can you communicate, handle rejection, accept correction? Can you work with people you don't actually like? Can you make a decision without needing the whole world to validate it? That's where families, parents, educators must step in before graduation day, not after. Because a diploma opens a door, but it doesn't teach young people how to walk through it or what to do on the other side. So let's be honest. A lot of our young people graduate without understanding money, especially in a practical sense. They know what they want, but they may not understand what it actually costs. They know how to swipe a card, use Cash App, buy online, order food, but many don't fully understand budgeting, taxes, credit, interest, insurance, savings, debt, or the difference between income and lifestyle. That's dangerous. That's really dangerous, especially today, because the first real world trap for many young adults is not failure, it's financial confusion. They get a job and think the entire check belongs to them. Then comes the taxes, transportation, phone bills, food subscriptions, car insurance, clothes, entertainment, and of course, unexpected expenses. And before they know it, they're working but still broke. So, families have to teach this clearly. Money is not just for spending, money is for managing. Parents should sit down with their graduating teens and walk through a real monthly budget. Even though the student may not want to, they have to, and you parents must insist. Not theory, but real numbers. What the heck does rent cost? What does a car payment cost? What about insurance costs? What about gas costs? What is the cost of food? What happens when the phone breaks? Or what happens when hours get cut at your job? Talk to them about what happens when credit card offers show up and sounds like free money. Educators can help in this process as well. Every high school senior should be exposed to practical financial literacy, not just formulas and worksheets, but real world scenarios. A young person should graduate knowing how to answer these three basic questions. How much money do I have coming in? How much money is going out? What am I doing with what is left? If they cannot answer those questions, the real world is going to eat them up and answer it for them. And usually it answers with fees, debt, stress, and all sorts of regret. So let's talk about work. A lot of teens are told you need to go get a job. That's true, but it's not the whole story because getting a job is not just about earning money, it's about learning responsibility. Our first job teaches time management, it teaches customer service, it teaches humility, it teaches how to deal with people. It teaches that you don't always get to do what you feel like doing. And that's important because parents and educators have to help young people understand that employment is not just about the paycheck. It's about building a reputation for the future down the line. Can people depend on you? Can you take instructions, solve problems? Can you stay off your phone long enough to be productive, for crying out loud? Can you be corrected without shutting down? Can you communicate when something goes wrong? That's real world preparation. Resume is important, but your habits are your real resume. Because long before a young person has a career, they're building a work ethic. And here's where parents must be careful. Don't rescue your team from every single uncomfortable workplace experience. If the boss corrects them, let them learn. If the schedule is inconvenient, let them adjust. If the job is not glamorous, let them understand that honest work is still honorable work. Every job doesn't have to be the dream job. Sometimes that first job simply teaches you what kind of person you're becoming. Now we have to talk about college. For years, many families have treated college like the only respectable path after high school. But that conversation needs to become more forthright and intentional. College can be a great choice. For some careers, of course, it's necessary. Doctors, lawyers, engineers, teachers, accountants, nurses, and many professional fields require formal education. But you have to understand that college is not magic. It's not a magic potion. A young person should not go to college just because everybody else is going. They shouldn't take on debt without a sound structural plan. They shouldn't pick a major because it sounds interesting, but has no clear connection to employment, income, or purpose. The question shouldn't simply be, are you going to college? The better questions are, why are you going? What are you studying? What career does this lead to? What will it cost? Who's paying for it? And what happens if you change your mind midway through? Parents should help their teens compare the cost of college with the likely return. Not kill their dreams, but make the dream responsible and reasonably attainable. Because one of the worst things we can do is send our young people into adulthood with massive debt and no clear direction. College should be a strategy, not a hiding place. Now, for some young people, the military may be a powerful option. Now, it's not for everyone, and families should not romanticize it. Military life requires discipline, sacrifice, physical and mental toughness, and a willingness to serve under authority. But for the right young person, it can provide structure, training, travel benefits, education opportunities, leadership development, and a sense of purpose. Some teams, maybe most teams, need structure. Some need to get away from distractions. Some need to grow up in an environment where excuses don't carry any weight at all. The military can most certainly provide that. However, parents need to help their teens ask serious questions before signing anything. What branch fits my personality and goals? What job field am I entering? It's the same thing. It's a job. All military is not going to war. It's a job that can transfer once you get out into the real world. What training will I receive? What are the risks? What are the benefits that are available to me? How can this help me after the service? The military should not be treated as the last resort. It should be considered seriously, respectfully, and honestly because service can shape a young person in ways few other paths are able to do. Now, of course, let's deal with something our culture has gotten wrong. Oh, so wrong. Trade school is most certainly not the lesser path. Let me say that again. Trade school is not the lesser path. Electricians, plumbers, welders, HVAC technicians, mechanics, barbers, cosmetologists, dental assistants, medical technicians, carpenters, and skilled tradespersons keep this country moving. Many of them can earn real money, avoid large college debt, and build careers that are always in demand and mostly sustainable. Some can eventually own their own businesses. So why do we sometimes treat trade schools like a backup plan? That's always been a mistake. Not every young person is designed to sit in a lecture hall for 4 or more hours. Some are hands-on learners. Some want to build, fix, create, install, repair, and produce stuff. That's not a weakness, that is a gift. Parents and educators alike should expose graduating teens to trade careers early. Let them shadow professionals. Let them visit programs. Let them see what skilled work actually looks like. Because a young person with a trade, discipline, and business sense can build a very strong life. Now, let's talk about something this generation understands better than most adults: online commerce. Now, some teens are interested in content creation, digital products, print on demand, crafts, clothing brands, reselling, social media marketing, e commerce, gaming content, beauty products, fitness coaching, or some other online business opportunity now. Parents should not automatically dismiss that. There are real, serious opportunities online, but there's also a lot of fantasy out there. Everybody with a phone is not an entrepreneur. Everybody selling a course is not qualified. Everybody making money online is not telling the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So, the conversation has to be balanced. Yes, young people can build online businesses, but they still need discipline, customer service, branding, pricing, taxes, bookkeeping, marketing, product quality, consistency, and most importantly, patience. Going viral is not is not a business plan. Posting content is not the same as creating and developing a sound business strategy. Having followers is not the same thing as having actual customers. Now, parents and educators should encourage creativity, but also require structure. Let's do this. Ask the team, what are you selling? Who is your customer base? How much does it cost to make? How much will you charge for what you're making? How will people find you? What makes your product or service different from the rest? How will you handle any complaints? Because there will be complaints. And are you tracking profit or just excitement? Online commerce can be a powerful path, but only when it's treated like a real business and not a dream dressed up as a hustle. So, parents, you guys have to shift from control to coaching. This is important because when teens are preparing to graduate, parents have to make a shift. You cannot parent a graduating teen the same way you parented a child in middle school. At some point, control must become coaching. Now, that doesn't mean you just let them do anything that they think they want to do. It means that you start teaching them how to think, not just what to do. Instead of saying, you better not mess this up, try asking, what's your plan? What have you researched? What does this cost? Who have you talked to? What are the pros and cons? What happens if plan A doesn't work? That kind of questioning helps young people mature. Parents also have to be honest about their own mistakes. Some parents never learned money management. Some chose the wrong career path. Some stayed in jobs they hated. Some took on debt that they now regret. Tell the young people the truth. Young people don't need perfect parents, they need honest ones. Now, schools, they can't do everything, but they can do more, much more to connect education to real life. Students need more than academic instruction. They need career exposure, financial literacy, interview preparation, workplace expectations, communication skills, conflict resolution, and decision making practice. A teen should not graduate without knowing how to write a basic resume, interview respectively, send a professional email, understand a paycheck, compare education and career options, identify predatory loans and scams, speak with confidence, handle rejection without falling apart, ask for help without shame. Education should not just prepare students to pass tests, it should prepare them to function because the real world, it doesn't grade on a curve. Now, to the graduating teen listening, this part is just for you. Nobody is asking you to have your entire life figured out at 17 or 18. That's not possible. But what you guys do need to do is to start taking ownership of your own direction. Ask yourself this: what kind of life am I trying to build? Am I choosing this path because it fits me or because it sounds good to other people? Do I want college or do I just want the college experience? Do I want the military or am I running from responsibility at home? Do I want trade school or do I need to learn more about what it offers? Do I want to start a business or do I just want fast money? Am I willing to work while I figure things out? Am I teachable? Am I disciplined? Can I delay gratification? Can I take advice from people who have already lived longer than me and know more and better? Because adulthood is not just about freedom. It's about responsibility. And responsibility is the part nobody posts about. Should every graduating teen have a 5 year plan? Well, not necessarily. Well, a 5 year plan, of course, it can be helpful, but it can also be unrealistic for a young person who is still trying to learn and figure out who they are. What they need first is a next step plan. What am I going to do after graduation? How will I earn some money? What skills am I building? Who's advising me? What's my backup plan? A young person doesn't need to know exactly everything for the next 5 years, but they should not be drifting with no apparent direction. Drifting, my friends, is not a plan. What if a teen doesn't know whether college is right for them? Then don't rush in blindly, especially not into debt. Consider a community college, part time work, job shadowing, internships, military conversations at the very least, trade programs, or a structured gap year with clear expectations. But let's be clear: a gap year should not mean sleeping late, gaming all night, scrolling all day, and calling it finding myself. A gap year needs to have goals as well. So here comes the real question. How much should parents push their students? Parents should push for preparation, not for specific dreams. There's a difference between guidance and control. A parent can say, you need a plan, without saying, you must live the life I wanted for myself. The goal is not to manufacture a perfect child. The goal is to help raise responsible adults. So think about this. Is a trade school better than college? Well, it depends on the person and the career goal and objectives. For some, college is the right path. For others, trade school may be faster, more affordable, and more practical. But the better question is not which one sounds more impressive. The better question is which path gives this particular young person the best chance to become skilled, stable, employable, and responsible. Should a parent support online business dreams? Of course, but with accountability. Support your child's creativity, support the ambition, and of course, support the effort. But do not support laziness disguised as entrepreneurship. Require them to have a business plan. Require them to research what they're looking to do. Require effort and require of them consistency. A dream without discipline is just entertainment. So, as I indicated before, graduation is certainly not the finish line. It's the beginning of a new level of accountability. Families, parents, and educators alike cannot wait until young people drown in debt, become confused about employment, overwhelmed with adulthood, or trapped in poor decisions before we start teaching them how real life works. We must prepare them before the world pressures them. That means talking about money honestly, talking about work honestly, talking about college, the military, talking about trade school objectively and honestly, talking about business plans honestly, and most importantly, talking about responsibility. Because our young people don't need the hype, they need preparation. Preparation is everything. They don't need pressure to impress everybody. They need guidance to become somebody. So, before we simply ask them, what are you doing after graduation? Maybe we should ask, have we taught them enough to make that decision wisely? And if the answer is no, then families, parents, educators, churches, coaches, mentors, and communities still have a lot of work to do. Because the real world is coming quick, fast, and in a hurry. And love doesn't just celebrate a young person's graduation. Love prepares them for what comes next. They said what? They said graduation means they're ready. But readiness is not automatic. Readiness has to be